Linor Oren, all the way from Amsterdam. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Yeah, really good, thank you. Now, I believe you've just had COVID.
I did. Yeah, it's been
Mm,
quite mild and manageable,
mhm.
but I still have a little bit of a so yeah, to all students out there, please don't imitate my voice right now.
Yeah, and I'm going to share something too. I actually have COVID right now. And
Oh,
yeah, and I'm still testing positive, but I'm here. There's no one around me, so I'm spreading the love, but I'm not spreading the germs. But this is
and
all
you're
about
just like a serene powerhouse. There's not like you don't see anything on your face, and like your energy looks impeccable.
I tell you what, that's what being in the industry for over 45 years does to you. You learn the show goes on and it does go
Bury
on,
everything.
and you bury everything, and then you get off stage and you die in a fetal position
Oh
somewhere in
no.
the corner and sob uncontrollably. No, that's very dramatic. But anyway, Lenore, it's about you.
It does happen.
It's about you. Now, you're a singing teacher from Amsterdam. Your business is SingweLL, and you teach across all styles, mainly pop
Correct.
styles and musical theatre, yet you come from a classical background. And
Yeah.
I'm so excited to talk to you because it's lovely to get a European perspective. Most of the perspectives that we have out there are usually from the US or the UK, and there's some of us here in Australia, but to have someone representing and waving the flag for Europe is fantastic. So, welcome to the show.
Right. Thank you. I do have to rain a little bit of that on that parade because
Okay, Rain.
I don't feel I can presume to represent the European perspective so well because I come from Israel. So
Mhm.
I'm more of a Mediterranean when it comes to temper and personality, I suppose. But also when I moved to Europe, I did study with an American teacher, but but I also studied with other teachers, and some of them were European. So I do have that perspective. I know a little bit of the, the trends, especially in the opera world, and how they differ from the American approach to
Mhm.
opera. They have different typecasting, sort of like fashions. Um,
Yeah.
so those are really different in Europe
Yes.
than they are in the US.
Yes.
So it's interesting. It's also a little bit annoying. But yeah, so I'm happy to just brainstorm about everything,
Well,
see
it's
how we
lovely
do.
to have your perspective. Anyway, uh, I do want to ask a question. Seeing as you were born
Sure.
in Israel, you did move to Berlin, which I know about. We're going to talk about
I
that.
do.
Then now you're in Amsterdam, and you had an American
Yeah,
you had an American teacher. So,
yeah.
my question is, if you were in Beijing right now in the Winter Olympics, what country would you represent?
Oh, I think everybody would think I'm Spanish, then probably Spain.
Really?
Yeah,
Have
I
you,
get that a lot.
I get that too. But I do
Yeah,
have
I can see that.
Spanish, even though I'm Italian, but I do have Spanish ancestry too, and the Italians don't think I'm Italian anyway. When I go to Italy, they think I'm Spanish. So I don't know. I don't know. I would
Yeah,
fly the Australian flag. That I was born
yeah.
here. Anyway, let's get
Yeah, I
started
would
with.
be happy to represent the Netherlands if they would have me. I would
Mhm.
happy to represent any country, but I always feel like I'm not really attached to geography. I'm really like wherever I am, I need to do my thing and I need to have my people, and I don't really care where I am.
Good
That's
on
how I
you.
feel.
Yeah, good on you. All
Mm.
right. So you grew up in Israel. Now, was singing culturally accepted over there?
Yeah, I mean, singing as in singing for fun, or do you mean singing
Yeah,
professionally?
even professionally, for fun, professionally. And what kind of music were you listening to when you were growing up?
Yeah, well, my parents would listen to oldies, a lot of 60s and 70s music, a lot of Beatles, and a lot of Israeli music from that time.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I grew up on. The classical music came a little bit later when I was around 8 or 9. We had a neighbor, which we're still friends to this day with his family, very, very strong connection. And his daughter is my best friend. And he is a musician, and he was sort of like nudging me in the direction of taking recorder lessons at first, and then piano lessons, then going into music schools. So I had my own kind of culture, I guess, private culture
Mm-hmm.
to train as a musician. But in general, there is not a lot of opportunities for professional musicians in singing in Israel.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's a small country,
Mm-hmm. Although
but
they
there
are
is like, yeah,
they are in Eurovision, aren't they?
yes,
Israel. Yeah.
yes, yeah.
Okay.
We are in the Eurovision, and we love singing as an entertainment. We sing in the holidays all the time, and we have those reality TV shows. We have The Voice. We used to have, like The Next Star, whatever. We had this show called The Next Star
Mm-hmm.
or Star is Born, something like that.
Yeah.
So people love that in Israel, but they don't really necessarily think, oh, this is something that people do as a living.
Mm-hmm. But as a child, you didn't sing. Now, there's a very interesting story that you shared with me. So, as much as there was all this music around you, you actually would not sing. So, do you want to share the
No,
story about the impact of your father's actions?
yes, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I did share it on my about page, so why not
Yeah.
do it here? So my dad has a very, very big passion for specifically my singing for some reason. I'm the eldest, and he just realized at some point that he liked my voice and he wanted me to sing. And whenever I started being self-conscious, I would decline. He would tell me sing, and I would say no. And he did that a little bit obsessively.
Mm-hmm.
So he would sometimes in the car turn the radio off and say, "Okay, now you sing something." Or he would, come to me and say, like, sing me something. And that's not how it works, Dad. I don't want to do this right now. Yeah. So I felt like the spotlight was really on me, and it made me very shy and very nervous. And it became a little bit of a snowball. Like the more I resisted to sing to him, the more he would like wait for it to happen. One time I asked him, like, why are you like even on my nerves about it? Like I never sing, so why do you say that you want me to sing? Like, why do you even think that I have a good voice? Because he would keep saying, but you have such a good voice, but you sing so nicely. How do you know? I haven't sung like forever. And he said, I hear it in your laughter. And that was, looking back, that was amazing to me because he has no training of any kind,
Mm.
not in singing and not in music at
Mm-hmm.
all.
Mm.
It was just something he picked up on. And I think he has this passion, this hidden passion for singing himself. He likes singing just, for the lulls. But he also grew up knowing that he can't sing because that's what people told him. And that's also a very big part of how I approach singing right now. Um, that I really, I'm a little bit allergic to people saying I can't sing or this person cannot sing. because all it takes is just a music teacher telling you when you're 7 that you have no talent.
Mm-hmm.
Based on what? I don't know. And it turned out to not be true. My dad has a really nice voice and he doesn't even sing out of tune. He does sing out of tune when my mom sings and he tries to match her key and it's not in his
Yeah.
range.
Yeah.
So his voice just finds a way in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that happens a lot, right? To a lot of people. And then they say, oh, I can't sing. I sing out of tune.
Mm-hmm.
But it could just not be the key for your
That's
voice.
right. Yeah. Yeah. So I just want to unpack a
Yeah.
couple of things here.
Yeah.
When you were growing up and your father was telling you to sing, and it got to this obsessive place, what you believe to be an obsessive place, did you feel that he was trying to shame you?
No, no.
What was the story or the narrative that was going through your head when the more you resisted, the more he pushed? Like what were you telling yourself as a kid?
That's a good question. I don't remember me trying to interpret why he did that. It was clear to me that he did it out of love.
Okay.
It was clear to me that he did it because he really wanted me to sing, because he loved my voice, because he loved me.
Mm-hmm.
It was never from a mean place.
Mm-hmm.
But it really rubbed me the wrong way. And
Yeah.
we talked also a little bit about why that was. And I'm still not entirely sure, but I think it has to do with the fact that I felt like I was taking an attention from someone else.
Mm-hmm. That
And
so
I felt
you
uncomfortable with that.
right. So you in your mind, when you were singing, you were taking the spotlight away from someone else. So you felt as you were finding your own voice, you were silencing another's.
Yes, that's what I felt like. If I get the
Wow.
spotlight, if I get the love, then maybe my siblings wouldn't.
Right. Did you feel a part of you, and maybe not so much at the time, but when you heard the story about your father being silenced himself, you hear that many parents live their lives through their children, or they try to, and they push them into things that they wish they had have done as a child.
Right.
So, do you think then you wouldn't have thought this as a child, but when you found out about what happened to your dad and the terrible impact it had on him, being told that he couldn't sing and he didn't sing when he really wanted to, do you then, at any time, did you then think, oh, well, he was trying to live his life through me?
I did. He denies it,
Mm-hmm.
but I think so.
Yeah.
I think it's not a coincidence that he has such fixation on singing. Um, and he always really, when I started training in instruments and then going to school, training as a musician, he was always really all over it
Mm-hmm.
and really excited about it. I think that's not for no reason. I think it's because he was denied it.
Mm-hmm.
But he
Yeah.
will tell you, no, I don't have a particular passion for singing. That's not true.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think so.
As a child, then, you that kind of language and what your father was doing to you, what for whatever reason it pushed you away from singing, didn't bring you closer to singing, so it silenced you essentially. Were you
Mhm.
silenced? Did you find then that you didn't have a voice in other areas of your life as well?
Not consciously, but when looking back, I think it might have something to do with me not wanting to ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that wait, I just talked about it with my mom the other day. I was always the one who would wait for someone else to ask a question and then listen very carefully.
Right.
I never dared to speak out so easily when it came to doubting, my competence, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
I had this responsibility that I felt, and I don't really know where it comes from. That from very, very young age, I just needed to know everything and be an adult, and I needed to be a responsible person. So I couldn't bring myself to ask someone something that might, turn out as a stupid question. Like everybody knows the answer to that.
Mm-hmm.
So I would wait for someone else to do that, and I would not share so much. Also, would not share so many experiences after school. My mom says that she relied on my best friend to tell everything
Yeah.
for me.
Yes.
So that might have had something to do with it. I never felt that I was not confident or that I was silenced. Like I didn't feel that, but
Mm.
that could have manifested in other manners.
Yeah. We're going to talk about some of your beliefs that have arisen since your own experience and that of your father's in a few moments. But we're just going to move along your story here because it all connects up really nicely. Now, you didn't start singing then till you were 21. What
Yeah.
happened at 21 that you all of a sudden went, okay, I'm now going to sing? I've made a decision to start making some sound.
Yeah, it was not exactly like that. It was more like I moved out of the house, out of my
Mm-hmm.
parents' house,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and now they don't have to know.
Oh, what? They didn't
That
know.
was my like that was my initial thought. So like I'm gonna take a lesson for fun. No one has to know. That was my state of mind at the time because I knew by that time that I have a passion for singing. I knew that inside me I would sing in empty bus stations. I would sing in where there was nobody listening. And I just, okay, now I'm out of the parents' house, so there is no dangers of them going. I was like, oh, you have such a nice voice, which for some reason was my biggest fear. So I was like, yeah, I'll go and take one lesson, see, just for myself,
Mm-hmm.
and no one has to know.
And
And then I did that.
but who, what, and where was teaching you to sing?
Well, when I was in high school, I was training as a pianist in the music department in my high school, and I had friends who were vocalists. So I went to the teacher who was teaching them because that's who I knew, and I knew that she was good or she was considered good. I gave her a shot, and
Mm-hmm.
then I realized, damn, I have to do this. There's no way back. I this is just too good. So I had to face everything. I had to go to my parents and tell them that I am going to take singing lessons and this is happening right now. And I had to get over my very, very, very severe stage fright.
Okay.
But there was no other way.
Yeah. All right. So you went to your lessons, you discovered how much you actually really enjoyed singing. So then, did you go, what a waste of time the last 21 years was?
Yeah, yeah,
What a
absolutely.
waste
I
of an
beat
F.
myself
That was,
up.
yeah, no one won there. I could have
It
made my
was a little
dad happy.
lifetime.
Imagine you could have bribed him. You could have had all these toys and lollies and clothes, and you could have had a
Absolutely.
Ferrari.
That's that's totally true. I went to a therapist one day who told me that, oh, this doesn't add up. And you say that you didn't sing because your father gave you too much attention? What are you talking about?
Mm,
Little girls, they thrive on their dad's attention. And that's how we figured out, yeah, maybe it was this little responsibility feeling that I just felt that like I was taking something from someone.
mhm.
But yeah, I totally beat myself up. It was a little lifetime that I wasted. And that's also one of the things that makes me passionate right now about people saying that they don't dare to or they don't think they can do it. You are wasting your time.
Mhm.
And we can waste our time even after we decide to learn singing. We find ways to waste time.
Mm.
when we can be awesome instead, you know?
Yeah.
So I really like, okay, we'll talk about my philosophy later, but
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
already reminding myself what I'm going to say later.
Yeah. Good.
Don't
Good.
waste
Good.
your time.
So then you start performing and you
Yeah,
discover you have performance anxiety. So another obstacle. It
yeah,
sounds like to me there was a lot of self sabotage going on, almost. Yep. So
yeah,
was it
probably.
a perfectionism thing? Was it what was it that what were your kind of like symptoms, or what was your biggest obstacle when it came to performance anxiety?
I think for me it was multiple things. It was very um I guess primitive kind of feeling, like when
Mm-hmm.
I went on to learn about it and realized that it's an evolutionary kind of
Mm-hmm.
fear that
Yes.
made a lot of sense to me. It felt like it was something that it was not even me
Mm-hmm.
making initially or creating.
Right.
And it came first of all from that fear of the spotlight. And at first, it was a fear of success. It wasn't the fear of failure, right? It was a fear of success and stealing the spotlight and thinking that maybe I'm not good enough for the spotlight. Um, or, yeah, I was afraid to make people jealous. That I carried that on for years. Also with colleagues, I would be, hesitant to share my successes with them so they're not jealous of me. Um, and so whenever it came to the moment of truth going on stage, I was like, maybe I don't want to give all of myself here. Something
Mm-hmm.
in me wouldn't dare to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a little bit of that. And it was also at a certain point, this expectation, okay, I learned some kind of technique and now it has to happen. I have to
Right.
do what I learned in the lessons,
Yes.
because without that improvement that I made to my voice, it don't mean a thing. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's not any good.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a very strong misconception that a lot of people have.
Yeah.
And I felt that way. I felt like it's never good enough. And whenever I find something that is better, there was the immediate expectation that now I'm going to be able to do that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can't do that on stage, and I knew I couldn't do that perfectly on stage
Yes.
because the stage is a different situation,
Yes.
um, then it's no good. Then it's a failure.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Wow. Just
yeah.
listening to you, as
I,
I
I
said,
made it very hard on myself. Yeah.
you did, and I keep thinking what I said earlier about the self-sabotaging. But did you seek help for it? How did you overcome your performance anxiety?
So yeah, I didn't really know where to seek help for it. I was going to college at the time, and I did at a certain point ask. Um, there was one of the teachers gave a lecture there about performance. We never had like a dedicated training for performance anxiety or for
Mm-hmm.
stage skills or anything like that. But then I asked, what do you do? If you go on stage and you feel really nervous and you have your heart pounding and panting and shaking, what do you do? And everybody laughed when I asked that, because I was considered to be one of the good ones.
Yeah,
And this is also, it
expectation.
brings me back to the misconception. I mean, the fact that you don't do your best on stage doesn't mean that you're not good.
Mm-hmm.
So I could give a good show even when I was nervous. But in my mind, I had to get rid of the nerves. I had to stop being nervous. So he really didn't know exactly what to say, but he said one thing that was the essence, like the most important thing that you can say. You have to do it anyway. and don't fight it. So that, no, that was the key point. You
Yeah.
don't fight the palpitations and the
Yeah.
shaking.
Hmm.
You accept them and you move on. And that's a very fundamental part of how I eventually got over it, because I did what he said and I went on stage anyway when I was feeling nervous. But I needed more tools to not, have that feeling of eventually shutting down.
Hmm.
And that was a lot of trial and error. And it was an excruciating journey of many, many years. And eventually I realized, okay, there are some things that I can do. Like I can repeat certain mantras. I can see what I need in the moment. Like there is one thing that I know that works for me. I always go back to that example because it's just for me very, very handy. I tend to build up tension in my shoulders. So if I
Hmm.
feel that happening when I get nervous, and of course that's the first thing that happens, then I just go down. So I already practiced that when I practice, right? I already
Right.
practiced that numerous times on stage to just go to, that's my go-to thing, right?
Hmm.
Just whoop down. So I remind myself that like a mantra, like down, down. And I realized there is a video actually that I talk about that on YouTube when I react to my own performance. And I really remember what I said to myself while I was on stage, because while I was on stage, and it's a recent performance relatively, I still have those thoughts like, oh, that's not good, it's, oh, I'm nervous, or oh, that note was bad, all those things, that you would expect that I would get over them. They're still there,
Yeah.
but I have my go-to things. So after a lot of trial and error, I realized, okay, there are some things that I can do on the spot. There are some things that I can do backstage. And there's a whole mentality that is, you don't have to get rid of the nerves.
Hmm.
You have to know what to do about them.
Yeah.
So I sort of came up with those things very, very slowly. But just
Yes.
to give you like like a time scale, so you know what, like how long and terrible it was. From the first time that I started going on stage
Hmm.
until the first time that I felt I had some kind of control over my voice, that I could decide, on the moment what to do with my voice, to express with my voice on stage.
Hmm.
That took 3 years.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's a
Yep.
process.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
until then, it was still okay when I would go on stage and
Mm.
I would prioritize my expression. I would prioritize, the narrative, and I would sort of like hope for the best with my voice. Yeah.
Mm.
And it would sometimes be okay, sometimes less, sometimes more, but I never had, like, I could never tell what was going to happen.
Hmm. Do you think that the audience could pick up that you were nervous, or was it all in your mind?
Maybe a little bit, but not in a bad way.
Mm.
Because very early on, luckily, and that's because I got inspiration from certain performers that I really like. I saw them and I said, that's the connection, that's the influence that I want to have as a singer on my audience. It was very clear to me that the most important thing is to give a good show, or to give a good experience to the audience.
Hmm.
So I would do everything I can to not let the nerves take over me. Like the worst thing is to just make a face when you make a bad, oh, or when
Yeah,
you
you
when you
don't
make a
show the
mistake, or
audience.
like you don't show it, because they don't deserve that.
Mm.
They deserve a show from start to finish. So that was a very important principle that luckily I could implement from the beginning. So people still sometimes have a good experience in my shows. And before I even had a good technique, they would tell me how much they enjoyed the performance. Sometimes I would even like give them goosebumps, just expressing with what you have, that does the job.
Yes. Do you still
But I would
perform?
still not be happy about it.
Yeah. Do you still perform?
Occasionally, I don't really put a lot of energy in going, like merging into the marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking about going back to it now because why not? I have good life. I have a good career as a singing teacher, and I love it. So there is nothing like pressuring me anymore. But I had very bad experiences auditioning. I
Oh,
didn't
really?
like it at
Yeah.
all. Yeah, it was not a good life for me. Just traveling, um, trying to prove myself. It's just something didn't fit
Yeah.
for me as a person to go through that. And also another mistake that I made, that I just expected someone to take me under their wings and give me a job. And today I would probably do that differently. I would,
Yeah.
you know, also do stuff on my own. And there's so much stuff you can do, and I can coach other people now that I'm like old and wise. um, but yeah, I don't, still my body doesn't like the idea of like going and pursuing a performance career, because I felt that I was giving so many resources and not getting a lot back. And I felt that it had very little to do with talent and a lot with strategy and confidence, and a lot of I made a lot of mistakes
Yeah. Do you
pursuing that career.
do you think that because you were auditioning for the classical world, I'm assuming,
Yeah,
yeah, which is a very tough gig. And
yeah,
if there was an industry that requires perfectionism, and perfection is the classical world, do you feel
yeah.
that your road would have been so much easier if it was CCM?
Probably, yeah. And that's also why I'm thinking about giving it, a chance from a different perspective, because it's true that technically in opera you're supposed to have this amazing round mix voice even through the entire range, and perfect legato, blah blah blah. um, but actually, I mean, even if I went back and did it all over again and I could give myself advice right now, I would say like it's less strict than you think, in the
Mm-hmm.
sense that it doesn't really have to be perfect. You need to maybe give the illusion of perfect, or you need to give the atmosphere of
All
the
right.
perfect bel canto voice. But everybody makes mistakes. Even really, really good opera singers, sometimes they miss. But
Mm-hmm.
if they're good, I call it the non-stop principle in my
Yeah.
stage
Yep.
course. It smooths it out if you just continue. And one of my favorite examples was Placido Domingo, when he went one time, sang an aria, and the last note was supposed to be a very high and long note. He ran out of air at the very beginning of the note. So that's like the biggest mistake that everybody like freaks out like this, and maybe cracking, like voice cracking,
Yep.
is like
Yes.
the big freak out.
Yeah.
And it happened to him. And I have a friend who sat in the audience when that happened. And she said, it took me a few seconds to realize that it was actually happening, that there was actually no voice coming out of his mouth, because he looked so in it.
He's like,
It's like yeah, he just continued the whole facade like nothing happened. And it's just the eye sees first, and the
that is so,
ear follows.
that's
And
so
he
true.
really created that illusion of, yeah, that was my plan all along, to stop that
Mm-hmm.
note in the beginning.
Yes. Yeah. To
Who
see
can
how,
tell that I
I just
wasn't?
want to know how many people here are actually still awake. All right.
Because
That
we're
was
talking
the,
about opera.
I did that on purpose. I was
Oh
testing you
yeah,
all out to see if any one of you was asleep.
Exactly. He was just bored. He wanted to
He
mess
was,
with the
that's it.
audience.
That's it. All right,
Exactly.
we're
Yeah.
going to move along. So you went in, you studied music, voice formally. In 2010, you moved to Berlin, where you studied with fantastic opera singer, and they had a huge impact on your career. And you became a professional opera singer for some time. Then you moved to Amsterdam. So, what was the pull to Amsterdam? Why Amsterdam? Why not
Oh,
Copenhagen or
yeah.
Stockholm?
Good question. Good question. So the credit goes to one of my good friends, Nani Noam Vazana. She's a singer-songwriter, an amazing one, and a really fantastic singer. And she's a good friend, and she lives in Amsterdam.
Mhm.
And she's so resilient. She would nag me to come visit her relentlessly, really, just nonstop until I said, okay. And it would take her sometimes years. It's like, when are you coming to visit? When are you coming to visit? When are you coming to visit? So the second time I went to visit her, um, it was just after I had a big breakup. My boyfriend at the time decided to pack all my things and email me that he packed my things, and just basically threw me out to the street. And 2 months after that, that's a very long story, but the best thing that has ever happened to me.
That's the
And
second worst breakup I've ever heard about. The other one was on
okay,
Sex and the City, and one of the girls was dumped by a post-it note.
okay,
Okay,
that is
but no,
worse.
this is your story. I just wanted to throw
Yeah.
that in out there.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it was horrible, but I just have to say, as horrible as it was, the only way it gave me is forward.
Hmm.
Because once he did that, I thought I was gonna have babies with that guy. But once he did something like that, and I think he did that on purpose, by the way. Anyway, I think he did that out of love.
Yeah,
He was going like, I'm gonna be the bastard here,
yeah.
and you're gonna hate me, and you're gonna never want to take me back. And that's exactly what happened. I never had those periods when like, oh, I wish we could get back together. That was dead.
No.
So I had to
Lucky you
grieve it
didn't
and
have,
move on
yeah.
immediately.
Imagine if you had babies and he tried to pack the babies and put them in the street with the luggage. That would not have been good.
Well, you know what? At least he would have done that immaculacy because he was very
Oh,
organized person.
he must have been a
Uh,
Virgo, was he? You know, the star
uh,
sign?
yeah, I forgot his birthday. That's a good sign.
That's a
No,
good sign.
yeah,
That means he's wiped. That's all right. Continue with
yeah.
your story.
But
Sorry.
I still feel that, yeah, he did me a really good service, dumping me like that.
Mhm.
So 2 months after that, I went to Amsterdam to visit my friend, and I was on a dating mode because that was my therapy
Yeah,
at that
yeah.
point. So I went on shamelessly, I'm gonna say, I went on OkCupid and I messaged a few guys. I'm like completely
Is that
shameless.
like Tinder?
It's it's more in depth than Tinder. So you have a
Oh,
whole
yeah,
profile, you know everything about the person, you answer like multiple questions, they have an algorithm,
yeah.
blah blah blah.
But you swipe,
No, you don't swipe. You just
you
choose
slap.
someone, you can like them.
I don't like you slap.
Yes, something like that. No, you can like people or something like that, and then you see if they like you back or something.
Mhm.
And you can also message them. And so I messaged a few guys, and my husband Eric was just
Oh,
on his bed taking a nap, and then he heard this, bzz, bzz, and he's like, "Should I answer it? Should I not?" And then he answered it, and here we are.
oh, oh, that's a happy story.
Yeah,
We went from the
we hit it off
suitcases.
immediately.
Yeah, we started with the suitcases on the street and we've ended up with a happy story. That's a good,
Absolutely.
I like that.
Yeah, my life right now, I could not have had that amazing family that I have right now. He's the most fantastic husband. I have 2 kids. It was my dream to have kids. I'm
Oh,
like, I couldn't be more grateful.
that's amazing. That's beautiful. I'm very happy
Yeah,
for you. And now you have
thank you.
this fabulous studio as well in Amsterdam.
Yeah, I'm not in Amsterdam anymore, but I
Oh,
teach in Amsterdam.
right. Okay.
I also teach here. So I live in Utrecht now. We just recently moved. You couldn't have
Hmm.
known.
Is that a long way
But
from Amsterdam?
no, half an hour with a
Oh,
car.
okay. Okay.
Yeah. And
Well,
I
we,
still go to
yeah.
Amsterdam to teach.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you're in person teaching.
Yeah. And I
Okay.
have a choir too.
Okay. So how did you develop your singing approaches to, or your teaching approaches to the voice?
Through blood, I think. Yeah. Blood, sweat, and tears. Yeah.
I was going to say that sounds
Uh,
really messy. Wasn't there an easier way?
it was. No, no. I'm over dramatizing it. But
I like it.
yeah, I think it was both all the mistakes I made and all the mistakes that were made with me, and the hardship that I went through that, of course, taught me there is another way. Um, that basically gave me a few of my core principles as a teacher. But it was also just a general passion for teaching. I've had that always. I've always had a talent for teaching. And I felt like if I understand something, I can explain it
Hmm.
to someone. And what happened is that when I started doing that, um, in the beginning, I more and more I started seeing my own problems on the students. And the next step was that I realized I can do something about it. I can help that student. And the next step after that was that means that I can take my own advice and I can also teach myself
Hmm.
because I already know a bunch of stuff.
Yes.
And that's what eventually made me a good singer, like really professional level singer, was when I realized that. And I had to snap out of the student mode, you know,
Hmm.
to be able to really like own what I have. But I'm afraid I'm missing the point of your question.
Okay.
I'm answering a different question.
No, no, no. Because um, just you went from being a singer to a singing teacher. So, how you created your teaching approaches, and you do have a method too that you
Right.
use uh, as well. So, how that all came together, was
Yeah.
it bits and pieces from a number of different places? Some maybe some of your own experiences, which you just said it yes.
Yeah.
And I know that
Yeah.
you do have a master's too from a university. Was
No,
no,
I have a bachelor,
a
not a
bachelor,
master.
a bachelor.
Yeah.
Okay. Was that in vocal pedagogy?
No, it was just in vocal in classical singing.
Okay. Okay.
Funny enough, we didn't have pedagogy. They have it now in the
Yes.
college that I went to. They didn't
Yes.
have pedagogy for singers
Right.
because the voice teachers were like, but that will mess up with my uh, teaching method.
Mm-hmm.
Don't teach them pedagogy. But now
Okay.
they're over it.
Yeah. Okay. So
So yeah,
you,
to your question, it was it was in bits and pieces. So I started learning that from my experience that way doesn't work, that way does work, and experimenting with the students. And then I realized there can be a methodical way of doing things. And first and foremost, I realized that one should focus on one thing at a time,
yes.
because what I realized from my training was that I had this amazing teacher that taught me all the technique that I know. But that was exactly what she did. She taught me all the techniques she knows, all at the same time. So it would be like
How confusing.
one. So I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I
No,
would
but I know
go
what you're saying.
one week. I would go for a lesson. I would get this golden, amazing technique, I would go home and I was like, oh, this is good. This is good. Let's continue with that. And I would come to her and I was like, can we keep doing that thing? Because that really helped me. And she's like, yeah, sure. And then she would move on to something completely different because that's how she is. That's, different teachers work different ways. And she would be like, I'm just on the wave of working on the jaw right now. I'm just doing that with all of my students.
Okay.
So I would get the knowledge and get the knowledge and get the knowledge, and I would have no time to process. And eventually, I had to just not come for a lesson for a while.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, okay, thank you. 5 weeks at home, then come back.
Right.
So that's when I realized that, I started taking notes with my students, and I started like remembering, okay, we did that, and that worked, so we're going to continue with that.
Mm-hmm.
And you described this when it worked, you described it as this, so I'm going to remind you of that. So really like staying on point. um, so I learned that just a combination of my experience and the experience with the student, and eventually all those bits and pieces came a little bit together when
Mm-hmm.
I decided to make an online course.
Mm-hmm.
um, so that really sort of like forced me to put it all on paper and just like make a plan.
Yes.
And then I realized, oh, I have a method actually,
Mm-hmm.
and it could be systematic, it could be
A
methodic,
meth
right?
Yeah, a methodology. So what you
Yeah,
described earlier, though, you said that as a student comes in and something works for them, you work with them with that one thing because it works for them. So to me, that
right.
sounds like a very student focused approach to teaching. So you're working with the
Mhm.
special needs of that individual student. So,
Yeah,
how does that then translate to a methodology where you have a specific training? And I'm assuming by what you're saying that week one is this and week two is that. And if all the students' needs are different, how does that then, are you still applying that same approach?
yeah. So I don't really work with the time, like syllabus kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
but I have the principles of practice, and I have my practice structure. And then there are all those things that you can do about, you know, improving your technique, and that's where it's customized. So in my
Right.
course, I have this huge module when we go through the body parts one by one, and releasing tension or whatever we need to do with that part of the instrument.
Mm.
But I tell the students, you don't go through the whole thing. You don't do that. You send me a video first, and then I tell you need to go to this and this and this, and that's what you focus on right
Right.
now.
Okay, so it is customized because the problem with a lot of methodologies is that every student is treated the same, but you do
Yeah,
customize it because if something's
yeah,
not,
of course. Yeah.
so what you're saying is if something's not broken, you're not going to try and fix it. You leave it alone. If something's
At
working
least not at the
well,
moment.
yeah, leave
At
it
least not at the
alone.
moment.
Mm.
And also, do you know the concept of bright spots?
No, what do you mean by that?
Yeah. I didn't make it up. There's a book called Switch when they talk about bright spots, and that's
Right.
basically something that already works.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of trying to solve a big problem, you take that one thing that works and you duplicate it. So someone did that in Vietnam. They were expected to solve the malnutritions in kids in 6 months. So they were like, how can I do that in 6 months? And
Okay.
there's a sanitary issue there. There is a poverty issue there. There's so much stuff, that takes way longer than 6 months to do. So what they did is they went over all of the families, they weighed all the children, and the families that had children of proper weight, they asked them what they're doing, and they found a pattern.
Ah.
So they were
Okay.
giving them something specific, like it was potato greens to eat, and they were also splitting the meals into 4 meals instead of two per day, same
Mm-hmm.
amount of food.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, well, we don't know if this is the thing, but we're just going to do that with everybody because it works, and it worked.
It
So
worked? For real?
yeah, it alleviated the problem significantly,
Wow, that's
amazingly.
incredible.
So that's a
Okay.
bright spot.
Okay. So,
If you have something that you can already use, just duplicate that, and
mhm.
then learn also what it is, learn how it works, and then you have something that you can control. You have something that you can use whenever you want. And in a way, that's also a waste of time to start tackling a big problem if you have something that already works right now.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So, what is your teaching philosophy?
So yeah, it's difficult to summarize in one bottom line, but one of
That's
the bottom
okay.
lines is definitely one of them is definitely don't waste time, in the sense of don't waste your life waiting to sing. Don't waste your time beating yourself up or judging your sound. All of those things that cannot lead you anywhere, that cannot teach
Mm-hmm.
you anything. And it's very human to hang on to those things, yeah,
Yeah.
to self-judgment, self-criticism, and the bashing
Mm-hmm.
and the disbelief, right? The disbelief in yourself, and like, oh, I'm unrealistic, I will never sing well, you'll end up being 70 years old and then doing it anyway because you love singing. So don't waste your life, just go for it, yeah. So
Fantastic.
that will be my first thing.
Yes.
And the thing about the judgment, I will zoom in on that and I will
Mm-hmm.
say, you're not in a position to judge your sound from your within your own head. It's not the sound that is in reality. It's not the
Mm-hmm.
sound that people hear. It's a different sound acoustically. So don't waste time on that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Instead, you want to go with the mechanism, how you feel in the throat, how you're doing the technique. You have your one element that you're focusing on. How did you do with that? And what, so I work really focused, one thing at a time, and I work with what happened, how can we fix it? I work with numbers on scale of 1 to 10. You give it a number. That's the only, by the way, that's the only stage in the work when I want people to be harsh with themselves and not like pat themselves on the back. Give me a low number on scale of 1 to 10, because then the 10 is better. But then after that, you're like, yay, me. Yeah. So that's one of my basic principles. And then the other principle that I work with closely is the body work.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe that you can sing well while choking yourself at the same time.
Right. So you're
So
talking
muscle tension
tension. Yeah.
around,
Yep.
especially muscle tension, and then closing the vocal cords. Because when you don't close the vocal cords, you also have a form of pressure, um, just by default of air leaking out constantly.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
that might be like the fault of the classical singer. But on the other hand, I tell the student there is nothing wrong with making an airy sound,
Mm-hmm.
but your vocal cords are not going to like it if you do it all the time. Probably
Exactly.
not.
Yes.
And regardless, I want you to be able to choose if you want to do it or not,
Mm-hmm.
and when you're doing it and to what degree, because there's a spectrum, right? So you want to learn how to close your vocal cords, and you want to learn how to keep your instrument free.
Mm-hmm.
And for that, you need to work with your body. You have to
Yes.
do body work or you don't have a chance.
So if you have a student that comes to you and everything appears on the outside to be working really well, so there's no tension, the vocal folds are coming together, the closure is beautiful, just as they're working efficiently, but
Mhm.
something's wrong with that student. And
then it's
you
probably the mentality,
realize,
which was my next.
yes, yes, I was going to say, then
Yeah.
do you believe that what is going on mentally and emotionally with that student will also impact on the voice?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely, and that's why, yeah, part of my course is also the mentality part. Both my courses, by the way, but the mentality aspect for me, it could, as you say, it could be a psychological thing. It could be something that we can't go into in the lesson, but there is something very practical that we can do about that. So um, two things come to mind. First of all, what happens when you say, if you have what I call the 3 moments of hesitation, then that's going to kill whatever technique you want to do. Yeah.
So
So the
what are
first
they?
moment,
Yeah.
yeah, the first moment is just the split second before you start singing. So, I want to sing something and I go just before. That's the planning. Some people would just think, oh, I'm just getting ready, right? Sometimes we breathe in like to get ready. And sometimes we just have this moment of thinking and we don't actually launch the sound.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I call the first moment of hesitation. And we have to kill that.
Mm-hmm.
You have to get rid of it. And the second moment is actually can be multiple moments. While you're singing, there comes the judging. So was that okay? That no was not no. And then you don't actually do the thing because you're busy slowing down and you're stopping yourself from doing the technique because you have this hesitation. So I like to work with, you have that element, vocal element in mind. Let's just say it's closing the vocal cords. Let's say we're working with speaking voice. I like to do that for closing the vocal cords, right?
Yes.
So we're thinking speaking voice. You're going to think that in advance before you start. When it's time to sing, go, 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 go. And then after that, there comes the third moment of hesitation. But instead of that moment, I'll talk about that in a second, that's where you can start asking questions. How was it? Start evaluating, and you can give yourself a number, scale it up, blah, blah, blah. So the third moment of hesitation is when you go, that was not very good. This day,
Oh,
it's not my day. And then you
okay.
start bashing yourself. And then you
Yes.
start having a hesitation for the long haul. Maybe I'm in the wrong profession. Maybe I'm not in a good, I'm not making good progress. All of this is a waste of time.
Okay. I call that self-talk, the negative self-talk.
Yes, yes,
That drives me insane.
it does.
Mm-hmm.
It drove me insane too.
Yeah, and I even
Yeah.
have students, and I try and knock it on the head as quickly as possible. You know how in the song there may be like 4 bars of music. They even find that 4 bars of music even long enough to go, oh, that's rubbish.
Yeah.
In the middle
Yeah.
of a song, like in between
It can be
verses.
less than that.
Like, what
Yeah.
are you
It can
doing?
be after a few notes.
That drives me insane. So that I have a
Yeah.
rule, you're not allowed to talk. No
No.
talking from the start of the song to the end of the song.
Great. I love
No,
it.
no talking.
Zip
And
it. Shut up
I
and sing.
and I have a lot of twang in my voice, and I just make
Mm.
this sound, right? And if I do it even to my cat, who by the way is sleeping next to me, and I'm going to end up waking him up, I go, eh, like this.
That's great.
That's me. And I,
That's funny.
eh. So they go,
Yeah.
oh, what was
Mm.
that? Yeah.
That's one of my biggest struggles. It used to be my biggest struggle with myself, and now it's my biggest struggle with my students because you really want to judge yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's an instinct. You really want to do that, and people just really want to do that. And the thing that kills me about it is that it is no function of how good you actually sing.
Mm-hmm.
I had a student who was 15 years old, a huge soulful voice. You could cry from it. It was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
and she thought she was crap.
Yeah.
And she would, after half a phrase, she would literally fall to the ground, like cover her hands with her head. It's like, oh, that was so bad. And
Oh my
I
gosh.
had to reverse engineer that. And it's very difficult, especially with teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yes,
but yeah, they're
you're right. Yeah.
so harsh, and everything is harsh. If you
Yeah.
tell them, oh, you looked a little bit nervous, that's the worst. Like any shred of self-doubt is really hard. So yeah,
Yeah.
all those moments of hesitations, I'm getting rid of them with tricks. Yeah, because you can convince yourself that, oh, I am worth it, or I will have a career, but you're not going to really believe it in the moment, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to fake it till you make it, which is another one of my mottos.
Yeah. And what you
Yeah,
don't know, you make up. That's one of my
exactly.
mottos too.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah. So you need to do something about it right now. Then you will see the results, and then you will start believing it when it
exactly.
works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to move
So
along
that's
to the
yeah, please.
interview
Yeah.
in the park.
Oh
Now,
yeah.
now you had this idea to go into a park, walk up to randoms, like people you did not know, and ask
Yeah.
them questions about singing. So I'm going to let you tell the listeners the story about you in the park, the crazy woman chasing people around in the park.
Crazy 9 month pregnant woman just
Oh,
approaching them.
pregnant as well.
Yeah, it was very far along.
Okay.
I think maybe that's one of the reasons they agreed to talk to me. I was like, oh, probably she means no harm.
Yeah, she's not going to kill us with a baby in there.
Probably not.
Okay,
Yeah,
so tell us.
I wanted to make I want to make a story talking to normal people about something that I saw was just a spread phenomenon in my life, and for some reason more in the Netherlands than in any other place, but it's just universal. When people say that they cannot sing and they hear that from other people. So we talked about that before. And I just wanted to know exactly how prevalent it was, because I just hear the stories that come to me. And I just went to the park and I asked people if they had memories of people telling them negative things about their singing. And the vast majority of people said yes.
Mm-hmm,
Very few of them said that they were encouraged to sing.
mm-hmm.
And a lot of people said, yeah, they said, yeah, my siblings, my parents, my friends, my girlfriend, they tell me that I can sing, and then immediately they go on to, and yeah, I'm not a good singer. So the moment you
Okay.
say something like that to someone, they will believe you,
Mm-hmm.
and that will be who they are. No, I'm not a good singer, that's just the way it is.
And
And what
can I just
surprised me,
say,
yeah,
sorry,
yeah,
can I just say something that just came to mind then? People won't sing because they've been told that they're a bad singer. Yet, how many people are on the roads driving a car and have been told they're bad
I sing.
drivers? It's okay to kill people with your car,
Oh
but you're not going to
god.
sing. You know, like it
Yeah,
when you put it into that, when you talk about it in
if you
those
put it in that
terms,
perspective, that for sure
if I
helps. Yeah,
surveyed
I
how many,
like that. I'm gonna use
yeah,
that.
yeah, I mean, how many people would you survey who have been told they're bad drivers? Sorry, I have to clear.
But they still do it.
How many people have
Bless
been
you.
told, yeah, I'm a bad driver, and yet they continue to drive, but then they won't sing? But they're not going to
Yeah,
hurt anybody with their singing, but they can potentially
but
kill
maybe they'll
someone.
sing. But maybe they'll sing in the car.
Maybe, yeah, that's a good thing to. Okay, yeah.
A lot of people sing in the car. A lot of
Mm,
people just sing only in the car because there's nobody listening, right? But yeah, I absolutely, I'm gonna steal that because I like that little pep talk there.
yeah, I
Um,
mean that just came to
but
mind then. So you went up to these people. How many people roughly did you interview?
I think it was about a couple of dozens, couple
Mm-hmm.
dozen people, not hundreds.
Yeah, yeah, okay. And
Yeah,
they're all different age groups, different gender.
yeah, yeah. Different age groups, different gender, and yeah. To my surprise, most of them said that they still sing. They don't mind that they're bad singers, which is completely different than the people who come to me for lessons, because all of those are traumatized because they were told they were bad singers and now they want to correct, you know,
Mm-hmm.
do some kind of therapy with that,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe find their voice somehow. But those people were like, yeah, I know I'm not good, but I'm still gonna sing. I don't care. Yeah.
Okay. Did
And
that
that
surprise
made
you?
me ask. It surprised me. Yeah, it surprised me. But then immediately it made me ask out loud, what would those people do if they thought they were good? If they sing so freely and they enjoy their singing so much, thinking that they're bad,
Mm-hmm.
what would happen if they had encouragement? What could they have done with their
Yes.
voices? In my experience, by the way, if you would want to talk about this objectively, my experience with people who say that they can't sing, they almost are never correct. Yeah, I mean, and when they are correct, they're only correct for now, but they can still work on it and improve, and eventually they can. I've never met a single person who couldn't improve their voice. I've
Mm-hmm.
never met a single person who couldn't correct their pitch. All of those people, oh, I can't sing in tune. I've never met a single person
Mm-hmm.
who couldn't learn that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the objective truth from my studio in the past 20 years. I'm not saying that I'm a scientist and I know
Yes.
everything,
Yes. Yes.
but I
And
had some difficult cases in my studio.
really, what's an
Yeah.
example of one? Like a
Oh, so
really
one of my
hard one.
favorite, really, really hard one. One of my favorite examples is someone who came with his girlfriend. It was so cute. They wanted to sing karaoke together. So that was their sort of like a together activity to come for a singing lesson together.
Mm-hmm.
And she used to be a choir singer. She had a nice voice. She was musical. And we just had to work on the quality of her voice, which, you know, we always do. But he was like a ton of bricks. He was very, very rigid. He had a very bad posture, and he didn't have a single memory of himself singing, not even as a kid.
Wow.
So, no experience singing and very, very limited instruments. So, obviously, everything that came out of his mouth was out of tune at the moment. Yeah. And very rough, raspy, everything. Like all the issues in the book were there. And so what I did, and that's usually what I do, by the way, when someone sings out of tune, um, is ignore it. I just ignored the fact that he was singing out of tune. I didn't ask him to correct it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't tell him, you know, did you notice that this was the wrong note? No, none of that. We just worked on the body and we worked on breathing, and I corrected the technique basically. And then we did this after a few lessons. He suddenly had a little bit of practice for his brain, following the piano, because he's never done that. He's never
Sure.
sang anything, right? Let alone match, you know, with the piano. And lo and behold, after a few lessons, he could do it.
Incredible.
Yeah, and it's not like it was just a flip of a switch and he never sang out of tune ever, but he started following the piano.
Mm-hmm.
And when there was a problem, it was usually a technical problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's also it's either a technical problem when you sing out of tune, or it's an awareness problem.
Yes.
But both
Yes.
of those can be trained, in my experience.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the awareness problem is at the level of the vocal cords. The vocal cords don't know that they can stretch this far. So just a little bit of sliding, you know, is
Mm-hmm.
going to show them, oh, oh, you just did that. You just went to a high note. It
Mm-hmm.
was just not on a certain pitch. but your vocal cords can do it now. And then lo and behold, they can sing higher notes.
Yes. Yes, so true. It's they don't
Yeah.
know. That is so true. You said that or that you've never come across a singer who can't sing or doesn't
Yeah.
improve.
Right.
Have you ever had a student, and I know I have, who has come to you? They're not the most talented singer, but in their mind, they are a brilliant singer and they think they're going to have a big career, like, and be the next Adele.
Um, yeah, but I will refrain from the first part of the
Yes.
of the sentence. Look, I don't really think in terms of talented. I mean, I know what you mean. So some
Yes.
people just have that more naturally.
Yes.
They can do it more easily. They can sing in tune more easily. They have a natural like ring to their voice naturally. But because I'm like a little bit I thrive on solving those kind of puzzles. I don't really make that judgment in the beginning. It's like, okay, here's the issue. Now let's see how we can fix it, right? Let's see how we can yank that voice out of them. Um, I had this student who really, she really has big dreams for herself, and she wants to be a celebrity singer, and she's not there yet at all. But I'm not going to say she's not talented. I actually think she has a good voice. She doesn't know how to use it quite well yet, but she's doing it better and better every day. She's practicing every day. She's doing what I tell her to do. She makes progress. What else do you want? Right? So I really think that I'm not the one who will say, here is my crystal globe, and this person is not going to be a famous singer.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know that.
That's
And you
true.
don't know if they're
You
going to be
never know.
successful or not.
Yeah.
And it's another form of a wasted time for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell them what I see. I'm going to tell them what they can work on. And if she comes and tell me, do you think I'm ready for the voice? I'll tell her what I think. Or, I think you're ready for this and this and this. Maybe not for the voice. But if you really want to, you can go ahead and try. From what I know, they're very quick to judge. They're
Yes.
not going to
Yes.
analyze the voice and say, this is where the singer now, they have this and this going on for them. That's amazing. And this is what
Yep.
they have to improve.
Yep. Yep.
They're not going to think like that.
Yep.
They're just going to go put a blanket over you, and they're not going to be gentle, and they're not going to be nice about it.
No, that's certainly true.
But
So
that is not to say that you're not going to be successful, and that
Mhm.
is not to say that you're not going to be a good singer.
Yeah. And the thing is, having that open mind and having that beautiful attitude of just wanting the singer to blossom and to be their best and to encourage them, they're always going to improve. That mentality that a lot of people have been trained in, that you go to the lesson and you get constant critique after critique after critique, and you get the wind knocked out of you every lesson.
Yeah.
I don't believe that's the way to teach either, but a lot of us,
No.
not me, but a lot of, especially my generation, were taught that way. For
Yeah,
sure.
I had teachers who were that way. Yeah. And I think that the if I want to give them credit, the what is behind it is, well, the industry is so difficult that they need to, they need to be very resilient, and they need to not be discouraged. If you've seen Whiplash, the movie, it's
No.
exactly like, it's about a teacher who is an a-hole, and he's screaming at his students, and he's just trying to discourage them on purpose to see if they stick around.
Mm-hmm.
And so eventually the one of his students sort of like rebelled against him and showed him, yeah, I'm not afraid of you. But then he also proved him right. Yeah, if you really are meant to be a musician, you will not get discouraged.
That's, yeah, yeah,
It's a very like all or nothing approach to
yeah.
me.
Yeah.
There are
Yeah.
many things that you can do with your voice. There are many types of career. There are many ways for you to actually make a living with your voice. It doesn't have to be Beyonce.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to, you don't have to be at La Scala or at West End. There are many ways that you can do this, and not everybody is meant to be screamed at and still, come out the other end and be a superstar. And then
Exactly.
you miss all of this joy, and you
Mm-hmm.
miss all of this opportunity, and you miss on the personality growth that comes with learning how to sing.
Yes. Yeah, I 100%
And
agree.
I'll tell you even more. I'll tell you something more. Even if someone ends up not singing well, in the standards, maybe there'll be some people will call them a bad singer. That is not to say they will not become successful singers, because we know just at the top of our heads
Mm.
of a few examples of people who are professional singers, but they don't sing very well.
Mm-hmm.
So
Exactly.
the conviction comes first.
Yes. Yes. Now you have a YouTube channel, and
Yeah,
I went and did a little bit of stalking today. I was telling you before we started this interview,
that's
and
sweet.
it's called a classical, an opera. Is it opera singer's reaction to
Yeah,
listening to Freddie Mercury for the first time, and something like that, wasn't it?
yeah, not for the first time, but just reacting to Freddie
Okay,
Mercury.
okay, and it goes for 15 minutes, and it's you literally listening to him in live concert singing Somebody to Love. And your idea behind this video was to give your opinion, to stop and give your opinion and look at ways. I think you're looking at ways to maybe not uh, to help, or to say, oh, if he had have done this, this might have been a bit more helpful, or blah blah blah. And I found it really funny, and not being disrespectful, and we did have a laugh about this. But after 15 minutes, you basically go, well, I couldn't find anything wrong with it. I don't know if I'm even going to bother uploading this video because it's a waste of time. I mean, he's actually really good. Yeah, so thanks for the memories. You uploaded anyway, and it's had nearly 4 million views.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy.
So it's crazy.
I mean, I was
Yeah.
even sitting there waiting for you to say something more than what you were saying. I could see you like
Oh,
getting
I'm
excited.
sorry.
A couple of times I saw the opera singer going like a little bit of a dance.
Yeah.
And
No, it hit me right here. That was one of the best performances of Queen that I've ever seen.
yeah.
Uh, and yeah, I sort of had that, like you say, I had that idea in my mind that if I see anything that is going wrong, I would point it out. And if I see something good, then I would point that out. And I think I
Which you
did
did.
that.
You did.
Yeah.
Very
Because
nice.
I want the audience to sort of like pick up on those things when they see a singer and they see, oh, they sing so well, that they could say, oh, but they're doing this kind of technique, and that probably helps the voice that way. So I'm like a voice geek like that. So that's what
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to sort of like share in this reaction. And it turned out that what people really care about is the actual reaction, like to actually see my face and see my emotions when I was watching him, and just getting the vocal remarks is a bonus along the way, but that's not what people care about. I have a lot of fans who are not really interested in voice training in any way, but they really like seeing reactions, like it's a
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
So you
it's a human thing, it's a human connection.
so you have a number of these videos,
Yeah,
and they have
yeah.
like hundreds of thousands of downloads or
Yeah,
views.
it depends on who I react to. but they vary from a few thousand to a few millions. It depends the popularity, I guess,
So
of the singer.
where did this idea come from?
It really came from the geeky place. Like because I'm analyzing singers all the time in my head, and I'm trying to pick up on what they're doing that is good. And sometimes I do that in lessons as well. Like I want to show a student how good it is when you have a good posture, or how beneficial it is when you open the jaw. Like people think they open the jaw, but they're not really doing it,
Yeah.
right? So it's like,
Yeah.
no, this is how a normal singer is opening their jaw. Look, it's at
Mm-hmm.
least that,
Mm-hmm.
and it looks normal, so don't think that it looks weird or something. So that it came from that, just showing on a celebrity what they're doing well, and just to show from the technical
Yeah.
aspect, because I'm really fascinated by those things myself.
Yeah.
And then I went and watched Bohemian Rhapsody on the cinema, and I've had that idea of doing a reaction video for a while, of doing exactly that. And I tend to sit on my ideas for months on end and not doing anything about them. And then my husband, bless his heart, just sat me down one day, took the camera, it's like, okay, we're gonna react to something right now. What's it gonna be? And I said, oh, okay, well, let's do the Live Aid concert from the movie, because I heard about it, and I heard that you know he was sick on that day. I heard all kinds of
Yes.
rumors, and
Yes.
I wanted to
Yes.
see if I could pick up on it. I was interested in seeing, like, what one of the biggest shows, the greatest shows in history, how was that really, like, vocally for Freddie? And so we did that, and that went viral. And then the video after that of Somebody to Love went even above that.
So when you did these videos, did you think, oh, people are going to watch them? I mean, what did it surprise you that it went
Not at this
so
level.
viral?
It did surprise me. I did not expect it to go viral. I thought that it will help me probably with my portfolio, with my website, and maybe, like, slowly it will also get some views. And back then I only had a few of my singing videos, which are very old, and that's basically all I had on my channel. And they had a few hundred views, from people that I sent it to, and
Like,
auditions and stuff
mom,
like that.
dad, 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 dad. 5,000
Yeah.
views is dad. He's making up for all those 21 years.
Yes.
No, that
And
is
actually,
incredible.
I have a funny an anecdote about it if you have time. But
Yeah.
yeah, shall I go for it?
Yes.
Yeah. So my first solo ever with in my college years, I didn't invite my parents because it was just one line when I was singing solo, and it was sort of like a student project, whatever. And I didn't want to invite them. I didn't feel ready, and it was just not, it was in a different city. I just didn't invite anyone, but I did record it. So I went back and I let my dad listen to the recording, and I knew in advance exactly how he's going to react every step of the way. And that's exactly what happened. So it was really funny. At first, it was the intro of the orchestra. So he listens for 3 seconds and it's like, I think this is the wrong track. You're not singing here. I was like, yeah, wait a moment. It's coming. And then after, I think, 45 seconds, I start singing. It's like, oh, here you are. Oh, you sound like an angel. You sound like on a CD. Oh, it sounds like a radio. Oh, it's so beautiful. I predicted exactly that. Yeah. Oh, it's so good. So good. Wow. Yeah. And then after 30 seconds, I finish singing and there is another soloist. Oh, that's not you anymore. Okay, I don't care.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, I would have done the same thing if it was my daughter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so
Um,
we're going
yeah.
to wrap this up. It's been such a pleasure talking with you. There's We've had a little
No,
bit of fun
same.
here, some fun stories there too. And
Very fun
so,
stories.
what are you up to now? What what's your
What
next
am I up to
project,
now?
or is there another YouTube video being uploaded soon?
Yeah, so actually I can't believe I'm saying this now because that now it means that I have to do it.
Okay.
So I thought, a little bit of healthy peer pressure from you and other voice teachers out there,
Hmm.
that I wanted to have a podcast as well.
Oh,
Um, so that's my next project, and
very
I,
good.
I decided that I'm gonna make it a sing-along podcast.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
So sometimes I will guide, sort of like a karaoke session, and sometimes I will just sing myself. And I want to sing, uh, hopefully, every single episode, I will sing something. And when I have a guest over, I will invite them if they want to sing a duet with me.
So it's like the car karaoke, but this is podcast karaoke.
Podcast, good one. Podcast karaoke. I like it. You get percentage.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
going to say that's two ideas I've given you now. I want my commissions. I charge up
What's the
front.
other idea?
About the driver. People tell you you're a bad
Oh
driver
yeah,
when you
yeah,
still keep
yeah.
driving.
No, the
Okay.
the driver one is gonna have your name all over it.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. I'm not gonna mention
So,
it without you.
what's the biggest piece of advice you would give to someone? And I know what you're going to say here. Uh, who has been told that they can't sing, that they're a bad singer, but they want to sing?
Um, I would say ask yourself, first of all, one important question. Whose life is it?
I wasn't expecting
And
that answer.
it's your life. That was a rhetorical question. And then the next question is, what's more important, my life or what other people might think?
Hmm.
Because you'd be surprised. Some people were told that they can't sing, but some people were told at one time, and then they don't know what the other people think.
Hmm.
And then they just don't sing because they don't want the neighbors to hear them. I was there. I was afraid to sing because I didn't want the neighbors to hear. I didn't want my family to hear.
Yeah.
What's more important, you or hypothetical opinions?
Yes. Yes.
And I'll go further and say that if in the very unlikely case that everybody thinks you're terrible, you still love singing, what's gonna happen is that you're gonna waste your time. And then you're gonna wake up when you're 60 or 70, and then you're gonna find a voice teacher. Because I have that happen to me on a weekly basis.
Mm.
People tell me that they are 40, 50, 60, 70, and they have waited all that while without doing it. So if you're going to do it eventually, might as well just do it now, because the value that there is in singing is about so much more than just about the singing.
Absolutely.
It's you. Your voice is you, and that's why we take it so hard, by the way.
Mm.
Our voice is our body, is our being, is our expression. It's inside of us. There is nothing more intimate than that, and that's why it's so scary. But
Mm.
that's also why it's not going to go away. You're not
Yes.
going to get rid of it.
Yes.
So just please do yourself a favor and go and sing.
Mm.
And if you are struggling, and I've been there, if you're struggling with that fear that people will hear you, fake it till you make it. Go through that little painful period when you are uncomfortable. Maybe turn off the light. I used to do that. I used to turn off the light in my room and close the door and pretend like a child that I'm the only one there. Because I knew that I had to get used to that feeling of people hearing me. and it's gonna pay off. You're gonna be more and more comfortable with it, and you're gonna feel the benefits of it. And this is for you. And if you're not gonna do it now, you're gonna do it later. So might as
Yeah.
well do it now.
Yeah. Beautiful answer. Okay, Lenore, you have been so kind and so generous with your time and all your knowledge and your wisdom. We really appreciate you. We're going to
I
share,
appreciate you.
oh, thank you. We're going to share your links in the show notes so people can go and have a look at your YouTube videos. And I recommend that people go and do that. It is a lot of fun as well.
It's
And
fun. It's fun.
and yeah, and all your resources. And look, we wish you the very best for 2022. Have a fabulous year in
Yeah.
Amsterdam.
Back at
And
you.
and we'll look forward to hearing the karaoke podcast. And I've already got my song picked. No
Yeah?
pressure. No pressure for having me on. Yeah.
No, I want to know what I want to know which one it is.
No, I'm
Will you
not
tell me?
telling. No, not telling.
Oh, damn
Not
it.
telling. Not
But
telling. I'm going to be
we're
like you
totally
and your
gonna
dad. See, you're being your dad and I'm being you. Now we're role playing.
tell me, tell me, tell me, tell me.
No,
Okay.
no, no.
Thank you
Okay.
so
Thank
much.
you so much. Take care, Lenore. Okay. Bye.